Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the full council meeting, including members, officers, and any members of the public who may be attending remotely. Please be advised that the meeting will be live streamed and data collected during the recording of the meeting will be retained in accordance with the council's data retention policy. The recording of the meeting may be added to the council's website. The following staff are in attendance: the Chief Executive, the Monitoring Officer remotely, Director of Resources remotely, Contentious Team Leader remotely, and Democratic Services. The emergency evacuation procedure: there is no scheduled test of the fire alarm, and if the alarm does sound, please leave the building quickly using the doors signed as fire escapes, and assemble in the car park at the front of the building and await instructions. If there is anyone in attendance that might require assistance in evacuating the building, please make themselves known. Thank you. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence, and I invite the Chief Executive to give apologies.
Just before I do that, Chief Executive, the Director of Neighbourhoods and Regeneration and the Communications Manager are also in attendance.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, I've received apologies from Councillor James Hunt, Councillor Peter MacDonald and Councillor Ken Pugh. Councillor Roger Clark and Councillor Elliot Jays are dialing in remotely and they will not be able to vote. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett.
Mr Mayor, I have apologies from Councillor Simon Fowle.
Thank you. Item agenda 2, minutes. Do members approve the minutes of the council meeting held on the 23rd of February, minute numbers 611 to 629 as a correct record? All agreed? Thank you. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Do members have any interest to declare? Thank you. Mayor's announcements. Item agenda 4. I have a lovely list of announcements, you'll be pleased to know. I attended 2 events at the Media Centre, one to mark the start of the BBC 100-year anniversary, and the second awarding prizes to local school children on behalf of Swale in Bloom for their flower bed design for a local roundabout to celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. I attended an art exhibition at Bluewater celebrating Kent artists and viewed exhibits from prisoners from Elmley and Swaleside jails who were invited to take part. We attended the International Women's Day at the Diversity House, where the Mayoress was invited to speak about women in public office and her role as Swale midwife. Sadly, we attended the sorry, I can't read my own writing here. Socially, I like that one now. We attended the Shepherd and Neame Brewery tour. That's why it was socially. That's what. You wasn't following me around, was you? I'm sure. Tour and the Faversham Brewery Ball, as well as the first Queen's Platinum Jubilee event with MS Swale. I was. Blimey, but this one was a better one still. Yeah, I was out at the launch of the Kent Wheels of Time that links all Kent museums and heritage hubs, of which Swale was the largest contributor to take part, with the most museums and heritage sites in Kent. It was an honour to be there at that one, and an excellent exhibition it was. And I did learn a lot about the rest of Kent, and we'll be touring it during the summer to see some of the other heritage sites. Thank you. Agenda item 5, leader statement. I will ask the leader to read his statement, and then I will ask the leader of the opposition to respond in the usual way. Following that, I will invite other members to respond to the leader's statement. Members invited to speak will have 3 minutes. This item has an overall time limit of 30 minutes. To ensure broad fairness, I will try to invite responses from members of the administration and opposition groups in roughly equal numbers. This may mean that I deviate from the order in which members have indicated a wish to speak. And can I please remind all members that responses must be responses to the issues raised in the leader statement. I invite Councillor Truelove to give a verbal statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you confirm that you haven't been to see Peppa Pig recently?
Yes, I can confirm that.
Okay, so whilst we have an extraordinary meeting on the 27th of April, this is the last full council meeting of the strong leader and cabinet era on this council, at least for some time. We have opted democratically to be a committee-led council, and whilst that will involve challenge and adaptability, we owe it to the council and our residents to make it work. We should be encouraged by the degree of public support for this change, including very emphatically former councillors who went through the change to the cabinet system. Who knows what crisis may yet occur, but it is clear that we, along with the whole of local government, are going to find the next period of time very hard. Local government has been underfunded for far too long, and unless this is reversed, we'll have to find radical ways to manage financially. If the government funds little more than statutory services, then the role of local government is going to be profoundly restricted. We are in danger of being a centralised state with less and less local empowerment. This is utterly the wrong direction. The COVID crisis showed exactly how able and adaptable lower tier councils are, and Swale was a sterling example. Swale has been able to expand its role over the last few years by the use of one-off funds, and I will be providing a statement on these at the final cabinet meeting on the 13th of April. But these funds are finite, and all the indications are that improvements to the borough in future may depend on successful bids for government funding, such as our levelling up bid, or how we stand with the government on their link between devolution, infrastructure and county deals. The last 3 years of this council have seen movement in several directions: the constitutional changes, the determination to tackle homelessness and rough sleeping, the enhanced links with the voluntary sector, the climate change initiatives, and the improvements to our public realm with a sense of our heritage. None of this work is completed, and I hope we will see continuity into the committee period next year and beyond. I'd like to be a little bit personal. I've had, over the last 3 years, 3 overall priorities. Firstly, to ensure this council has a sense of stability, both in its management and in its finances. We were in a difficult place at first, without a chief executive and without a very convincing structure to our senior management. Secondly, I believe there were resources available, and had been for a long time, that could be utilised to the benefit of our local communities. I've referred to the one-off funding earlier, which has in total enhanced our public facilities, our open spaces, our play areas, made visiting Swale a more comfortable experience, improved our town centres, and given support to others in our community that are a vital glue in our borough. And thirdly, I wanted Swale to be a kind council, providing backing to disadvantaged groups, to food banks, children's centres, and as indicated, tackling homelessness and improved resources. Along with this, for much of the first 18 months, my own personal concentration was taken up with ensuring that the spirit of Sittingbourne project that we inherited would be delivered in a way that protected council interests and delivered something valuable to our residents. I believe a decisive part of that was ending the partnership with developers and recovering land that had been offered away in the deal. So we enter a new stage, and that means a change in the way we are led. The leader will still need to represent the council to the outside world and keep an overall strategic view of the council's progress, but the level of decision making will be different. So the next year will also be a learning period for both leader and other lead members who were previously cabinet members. We cannot know the outcome of the 2023 elections, but as far as possible, it would be productive for the leader over the last 12 months to be around after those elections. Which brings me to the point. I've been a Swale councillor for 28 years. I was very doubtful about being a candidate in 2019, and I long ago decided I would not stand in 2023. I believe it will be in the best interest of this council for someone else to take up the new leadership role for the next 12 months. I will be standing down as leader, but I will continue to play a part for the next year. I will continue to lead until the meeting of the 27th of April, when council will elect a new leader. And the cabinet will continue until annual council on the 18th of May. In the cabinet and in the opposition, there are a number of people who have the talent and commitment to take Swale forward over the next few years. I think I've been enormously lucky to have had the backing of the cabinet over the last 3 years and the talent and commitment in that cabinet. Some said the coalition wouldn't last. It has, because the will has been there and because its members have shown great determination to make it succeed. And just as I've been lucky with the cabinet colleagues, I'd like to acknowledge the courteous nature of the leader of the opposition. But most of all, I want to thank the senior officers for their work and their forbearance. And if a last word, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to propose that this council donate £5,000 to the Disaster Emergency Committee to relieve the situation in Ukraine. And I don't think any of you dare say we won't do that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Truelove. I would like to invite Councillor Horton to give a response to the statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Leader, for your words this evening. Can I start at the end and second your proposal on the donation to the Ukraine Relief Fund? I think that is something that every single member of this council supports and would like to support you in that proposal. The fact that you are standing down as leader did not come as a surprise to me, because you extended the courtesy of telling me in advance with my deputy this morning. Leader, you and I both had the privilege of serving the community of Homewood. I started in 2015 with no experience whatsoever in politics, and of course you will say I still do not have experience in politics. But I knew when you were elected that I was to serve alongside an experienced and respected councillor with a long-standing community name. And I learnt a bucket load in those 4 years, and I am very grateful for that. Interestingly, I also found that there is not a world of difference between being a Labour councillor and being a Conservative councillor when your focus is on your community, and you taught me that. We share many, many things in common, and we share many views about what is right for the people in our community. We have one or two fundamental differences, and I'm going to hang a hat on one of them a little bit later on. But having extended the courtesy to me of advising me of your decision today in advance. You also said, I don't enjoy praise and I don't like platitudes, so please don't give me any. And for the first time, I am delighted to go with your recommendation. Seriously, while leaving your role as leader, you are not leaving this council, not for another year. You are not leaving the people of Homewood. And the reason that you have made this change is one that every single person in this chamber will respect and understand. And that is to spend more time with your family, and in particular, your 4 grandchildren. And you carry with you, when you leave, our very best wishes for you and your family. Now, I said there was one fundamental difference between us, and that fundamental difference is one which is mirrored across the country between Conservatives and Labour, and that is unions and private sector. And there are times when you wonder if you have got it right, because the private sector have not done the right thing by 800 people who work on the P&O ferries. We are a seafaring community. The island is a seafaring community. We have a coastal heritage, and we will have people in our community who are directly affected by what I am ashamed is the decision made by a private sector business. And this is the right place for a union to be, looking after the bargaining, collective bargaining, and the safe working conditions. And 2 of the ships that P&O own have already been held in harbour because they are no longer safe. So I respect the rights of unions and I respect the work they do, and I hope they get a first-class deal for the people who were shamefully treated by P&O ferries. And on that note, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Horton. Councillor Darby, just a statement. Okay, thank you. I invite members to give their responses, please. Councillor Baldock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that platitudes and kind words and things are not comfortably received. So I hope you're going to be uncomfortable. Because I remember longer ago than I care to remember, or care to admit, when I was on your first campaign to get elected to this council in 1980 something. And it was in the ward that I now represent, Borden. Changed now, it's Borden and Grove Park. But at the time, it was country village that had been represented by Conservatives for a long time, and you put up a challenge. And I remember being in Margaret Milliken's house, doing the Reading sheets, and that was the start of something which I don't think you at that time would have expected to be the case. The start of a long and high-profile career in Sittingbourne, where you have delivered first for my village and for the whole of Sittingbourne consistently, while spending so much time in opposition. And that is a challenge. It is a challenge to sit there always in opposition, apart from a short period in the 90s, but to always be in opposition and still deliver, to still have that gusto, that willingness to serve people. And that, you know, a lot of people get drained by that. A lot of people find that a really depressing route to have to keep taking. And then when I joined this council in 2015, we were both in opposition groups. And we worked together well then. I'm obviously skipping the 8 years I was in Labour for the sake of briefness. But and we worked well then. But when I came onto this council, you know, it was difficult. And we were in what many people considered fundamentally different parties. But as the leader of the opposition has said, when it's about councillors, when it's about working for local people and representing local people, the party side of it really goes to one side, and you do what you think is best for your community, what you think is the best for the people of Swale. So we put, we put those party divisions aside and tried to work constructively, even in opposition. And I don't think either of us were really expecting in 2019 that after your 20 odd years on the council, we would be in a position to make you leader. I think it's absolutely undoubtedly the right thing that we did. I think you have shown for those 3 years how to lead a council, with, won't say sagacity, because we know what comes after that, and indefatigability for those who wouldn't like that comparison. But you have led this and shown the way that a council can be led in a way that's inclusive and a way that has got the support of the people as well as the other parties on it. But I say thank you, Roger. Whilst I've been your deputy, it has been a true honour, and I hope you enjoy your final year on the council.
Councillor Beard, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it was supposed to be in the leader's statement, but he ran out of time. So I would simply ask, will he join me in congratulating Sheppey United on being on their league promotion last night? Not just in friendlies, but we're now looking forward to competitively beating Sittingbourne and Faversham.
Councillor Henderson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too have worked with you for a long time, Roger, and not for the initial 2.5 years that you have led the council, where I've watched from the outside in, having tried to retire and failed. The thing I most remember about the early days, apart from the fact, of course, that we were then in the same party until you wobbled a bit, was to remind people here that everybody accepts these days that we have a climate emergency and a biodiversity emergency, and it was you who invented and developed and chaired the first environment committee of this council, and it did some extremely good work in the early 90s and beyond that. So I'm certainly sorry to see you retire, although I very much understand the reasons for you doing it. And you did mention that you were lucky with the coalition, and I won't be rude and ask it as a question, but actually say that it seems to me that the coalition was also very lucky with you as someone who was able to build that coalition and make it work for 3 years. And I wasn't sure in May 2019 that it would work, and it has worked, and I think that is very much down to you. So I hope you enjoy your last year not having to do quite as much work as you've been doing. Thank you.
Councillor Martin, please.
I'll have a hard time following my colleague, aren't I, on this one? But I can say quite safely, I'm probably the only owner of a Roger Truelove Liberal Democrat working for you Dayglow orange poster. Still with the old skinny Libby. I'm afraid the archives at Faversham do live in my address, Roger. But it has been a real privilege. You took an awful lot of very new councillors, very green councillors in 2019 under your wing. You helped us see which way we can go, how we can work. And for many of us, we haven't had that experience of opposition at the moment, which long may it continue, please. No, thank you. However, I do appreciate how long you had spent on those benches and how frustrating that can be and would have been. And I think it is testament that actually when you look over the previous leader, 17 years leader, they certainly didn't have the problems to deal with that you have had over the last 3 years. Let's face it, a pandemic, a crisis in Ukraine, cliffs collapsing on Sheppey, and having to hold together a 5-party coalition. I don't think anyone would envy it on day one, but you've sailed through it like a swan swimming on the top. No one's really noticed, but then underneath we know how hard you had to work. And with no chief exec in those first few months, we know how many hours you were putting in, holding it all together, not just as a council, but also holding staffing together. And it is a great testament that you have left us, or you will be leaving us, with a stable management structure, with stable finances, and in a position to continue on the good work that you have started. So thank you very much.
Councillor Bonney, please.
Thank you. And thank you, Roger. Well done. And as someone said to me, it doesn't feel like 3 years the coalition have been together. I think it is actually quite incredible. Most people would say, how many parties in your coalition? And you've held it all together. Behind the scenes, there has been a huge amount of work. You know, there are obviously meetings with officers, also external parties. And I think Roger has been a magnificent ambassador in those roles with those external parties, and the credibility of Swale has shone through that. So I'd like to say thank you. And I just remember your expression and my expression when we realised we could form a coalition at that election. And I said, we've done it. Who's going to lead? And you said, I'd like to lead. And we thrashed out over the next week a sensible working frame and bringing 5 parties together with that, and staying true to those core fundamentals that we agreed at the outset, and that we identified the skills and talents within those 5 parties of those particular goals we'd set ourselves and stuck to them. So well done, and thank you very much.
Councillor Winklis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to pay tribute to Councillor Truelove, leader of this council. I mean, the way he has been a great stewardship of leading this council through the COVID-19 virus, etc., has not been easy, and kept the coalition together. So I would like to thank you, Roger, for the work that you've done. Thank you.
Councillor Harrison, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought I'd better say something, otherwise they'd be saying they'd be making up stories. I think, like they do, I think two things I wanted to say. Firstly, that during this last 3 years, the respect that Roger has shown to everybody in this chamber, more specifically the opposition, in direct contrast to the way that the opposition were treated prior to May 19. He's treated people as he had hoped to be treated, and would hope that people treat you in the future. And I think that is a credit to the man that he is, that he stayed at that high level. He is highly respected in this council, in this community, and indeed elsewhere across Kent and far beyond. The other thing I wanted to say is your integrity, Roger, shines through. Thank you.
Are there any other members that wish to speak? If not, then, oh.
Councillor Watson. I wasn't going to, but as Councillor Truelove knows, we kind of started this journey as local councillors back in the late 80s, when, as was referred, he was of a different political colour. All I will say, and it will be brief, we've we've had our political differences, but Roger always attends to business with a good sense of humour. He listens and he's very fair in his decision making. So I would thank him for that, and I wish him well in whatever he takes, what path he takes in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and it's up to the Mayor now to have the last words, I think, on this. It's my chance and my pleasure to say to Roger a big thank you on a personal note, because if there was ever a problem, if there was ever anything one of these new Green members what needed to know, which was myself, Roger always had a sound word and a correct word and instilled confidence in those that were a little bit unsure about how to proceed. And that has stood me in good stead, and only to become Mayor on the back of that, I think. And that's my gratitude to Roger, and what an excellent job he's done, and good luck for the future. Thank you very much, Roger. And I think I haven't got the last word. Councillor Truelove, would you like to come back and have the very last word on this one?
It's unprecedented for me to say that I agree with everything that's been said, even including Councillor Beart's reference to Sheppey United. That really is good, and it's all part, I hope, of Sheppey on the up. Really, there's a lot more community feeling there. I think a football team doing well is part of that. I'm not going to respond to everybody else. I just want to say this, that it is a 5-party coalition. So there's 5 leaders, and all the leaders of the different parties have shown strong leadership qualities and have been responsible for delivering a lot of what we've done. So Councillor Baldock has shown incredible leadership in the constitutional changes that we've introduced. Councillor Martin has transformed the way we look at housing. Councillor Valentine has made this council one of the foremost climate change councils in the country. And Councillor Bonney has looked after property, and in particular, and continues to make the Spirit of Sittingbourne, or the Sittingbourne Town Centre, something that is sustainable for us and brings a great deal of expertise. So it is a team, and of course the rest of the cabinet as well. And I hope it continues to be a team as we go forward. I think I said to the other day, I wasn't sure how far we would get in 2019. I think we've got far further than I anticipated, and it's because of the collective good work of the members of the cabinet, but also their individual good work. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 6, questions submitted by the public. There is one question submitted by a member of the public, Mr. Collins, and he would like to ask the question to the Cabinet Member for Economy and Property. Unfortunately, Mr. Collins can't be here for technical reasons, so I shall be reading out his question. Swale can lead the way among statutory authorities in the transformation of local infrastructure and economy, which the climate emergency demands. The challenge to achieve maximum sustainability presents many opportunities for employment at all levels. What is the Council doing to promote training to equip the local workforce with the requisite motivation and skills? Councillor Bonney, please.
Thank you. So this covers 2 portfolios, but I shall answer. So I don't know if there's a follow-up he's given you. So thank him for his question. I know he can't be here tonight. So the council has adopted a leadership role locally in declaring a climate and ecology emergency in 2019. Alongside this, a climate and ecological emergency plan, I will spit it out, was adopted in 2020 and sets out a broad range of actions against which progress is being made This includes the rollout of carbon literacy training for all the council's own workforce, which seeks to deepen the understanding both of the issues and the opportunities for individuals and the council to consider how they contribute to meeting the challenges both personally and through their work programmes. Whilst wider responsibility and funding for learning and skills rests with KCC and other institutions, the council has nonetheless placed great importance on promoting improved access, attainment, progression, encouraging learning providers to help address what are significant and fundamental skills gaps in the resident population. We also work with partners to encourage employers to invest in workforce development and directly promote opportunities for business to make their operations more sustainable. Continuing to raise awareness amongst employers, improving links between them, learning providers and new business opportunities associated with addressing climate change all help motivate investment in the skills that will be needed. But inevitably, more could be done. The council will continue to play its role, working with employers and providers and new funding opportunities, such as the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which may also give district councils the ability to more directly influence local learning provision and support employee skills for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Bonney. There are no supplementary questions. Thank you. Item agenda 7, questions submitted by members. One question has been received from members, a schedule of which has been circulated by email. The question and response will be circulated to members by email tomorrow. Councillor Davey, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Please, can the Cabinet member advise on the correct procedures, protocols, criteria and data gathering methods required and their method of presentation in order that the CCTV cameras can be reinstalled in Milton High Street? Thank you.
Councillor Palmer, please.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Davey. Swale Borough Council will consider the introduction of CCTV in consultation with Kent Police. In order to ensure that there is evidence of a legitimate aim and need, the council consider the type of issue being encountered in a specified area, the volume of incidents reported to Kent Police in a 6-month period, including the frequency and victim profile. It is important that people report incidents to the police via the 101 system or in an emergency situation via 999. How it is felt that CCTV will specifically contribute to resolving the problem and if it will be effective are the considerations. In relation to Milton High Street, Kent Police have not highlighted this location as one of concern or need for CCTV since the cameras there were removed. CCTV would also be considered as a possible action when a problematic location is highlighted to the CSU unit, the Community Safety Unit of Swale. As stated above, residents must report all incidents to the police. Ward members play a key role in this and should be stressing to residents the need to report all incidents to the correct authority. Reporting incidents via social media does not negate reporting incidents to the police. The ward members could also highlight to the CSU team any problematic locations within their wards. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. Councillor David, do you have a supplementary question? Thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item 8, motion violence against women and girls. A motion concerning violence against women and girls has been received as set out on the agenda. The 2 amendments have been received as circulated to members and tabled. There is a maximum of time of 30 minutes to debate the motion.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, there are 2 amendments. Can we have confirmation that if the first one is passed, the second one will automatically fall?
I think we need to wait to see how the motion goes, and that will be answered. I can assure you of that. That has already been debated and or discussed prior to this meeting. And if you wait to see what comes out of the motion, you'll find out why. Thank you. Members, please bear with us. Councillor Hannah Perkin invites you to propose the motion. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With permission of the meeting and through you, Mr. Mayor, I would like to alter the motion to reflect the wording as presented in Amendment 1. So I think we have to get agreement from the council for that to happen.
Do members agree that the motion or the amendment, the first amendment, is going to be added to the motion? And everyone agreed? Thank you, members.
Fabulous, thank you. I'd also, just for a point of clarity, like to point out that there was a correction of an inaccuracy in the printed delivery of the motion, which has been corrected in the motion that is presented this evening. Just correcting the amount of what previously said 3% of reported rapes are heard in court. It's now 3% of reported rapes will end in conviction. So it was really just to correct the public record. Thank you. So just over a year ago, we all watched with horror as the story of Sarah Everard unfolded. She was tricked by a serving police officer, kidnapped, raped and murdered, and her body left in a woodland near Ashford. Not long after this, a PCSO from Julia James, a PCSO from Snowdon, was killed when out walking her dog near her home. Since then, at least 125 women have been killed, and as an average, 2 more women will lose their lives as a direct result of violence at the hands of men every week. Every year, MP Jess Phillips reads the names of women lost the previous year in Parliament. This year, there were 10 more women than for the previous year. 10 more mothers, daughters, sisters, aunties, friends and colleagues. As the motion states, the ONS reported that in 2020 alone, 618,000 women in England and Wales were victims of sexual assault or attempted sexual assault by a man. To put that number into context, that is over 4 times the entire population of Swale. More than 1 incident of rape or assault or attempted assault every minute of every day for a year. Following the death of Sarah Everard, I conducted a survey of women that live in Faversham to ask them what their feelings were about their own safety. I consider Faversham to be a safe place. I was pleased that the vast majority of those women that responded felt safe to move around Faversham during the day. I was saddened, but not particularly surprised to see that that number dropped to well below 50% for women in Faversham at night. I also asked them if they took any precautions when going out at night, and I wanted to read some of them to you so that you can hear the little things that women have told me that they regularly do to keep themselves safe. 1. I avoid any man or men not walking with a child or a dog. I only walk during the day. I keep my dog closer to me when I walk past men to try and make it appear that my dog might be more aggressive if they approach. I also carry pepper spray. 2. I carry keys in my hand at night and use most well-lit routes. I don't use alleyways, side streets or underpasses. Number 3. I will never wear both headphones or have my hair in a ponytail at night so that I can hear what is around me and I can't be grabbed by my hair. 4. I'm cautionary towards other people. I always make sure to have my phone handy, and I normally am on a call with someone to make sure that if someone does want to harm me, someone will know, be on the other end of the phone. There were over 300 responses to that question. I wanted to thank the Community Safety Partnership and Councillors Palmer and Jays for the work that they have been doing in collaboration with Kent Police. I also want to thank Councillor Woodford for working on this motion with me. I also particularly wanted to thank Steph Curtis for the programme of work that she has been supporting, and Satida for their continued work supporting women who experience domestic violence in our borough. I wanted to recognise as well that men and boys can also be victims of domestic violence, rape and assault, and that those men and boys absolutely deserve access to services and support too. I would offer my support to any councillor that would like to bring a motion that highlights this to the council. That said, this evening, I'm here specifically to highlight the realities of women in our communities. Just last year, Her Majesty's Inspector of the Constabulary, Zoe Billingham, said, "We are living during a national epidemic of violence against women and girls. Offending against women and girls is deep-rooted and pervasive in our society. Urgent action is needed to uproot and address this, and police cannot solve this alone. There must be a seamless approach to preventing and tackling violence against women and girls across the whole system, including education, local authorities, health, social care, and from across the criminal justice system, with all agencies working together. The key here is the final sentence.
30 seconds remaining.
All agencies working together. This motion rightly commits Swale Borough Council to continuing to do everything in its power to build a borough free of misogyny and violence against women and girls, and I hope that you can all support it. As a local authority, we must play our part, and I present this motion to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkin. I'll ask Councillor Corey Woodford to second the motion and ask if you wish to speak now, reserve your right.
Thank you. I'm pleased to second